Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.
This podcast is brought to you in partnership with okjersey.com. Looking for football shirts? Head over to okjersey.com and enter the discount code Harry for 8% off. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner with me, your host, Harry Symeou, coming to you on Monday, the 2nd of Feb, transfer deadline day, although I do always find that these days are just a little bit overhyped. However, Arsenal might not be done in terms of the window. I mean, I say done. They haven't really got started, have they? The only thing we've seen really materialize are departures that I don't think come as a major surprise. Ethan Nwaneri on loan to Marseille. Alexander Zinchenko joining Ajax on a permanent deal. We'll come on to cover that off in a little bit. But yeah, we're live. We're here. We're happy. We're 6 points clear at the top of the Premier League after what turned out to be a really, really good weekend. And I was looking at some statistics around, how the top teams in the Premier League have fared of late. And what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to see if I can bring this up on my screen and share it with you. Because I was looking at the Premier League's form guide, right? Where is it? Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, so Arsenal have obviously drawn 2 games, during their last few. They've lost 1, right? So that's 3 games in which they haven't won. Yet when you look at, and let me just share this with you now, when you look at the Premier League form guide at the moment, Arsenal is still second in it. Manchester United are top of the form guide across the last 6 games, averaging 2 points a game. So they've got 12. Then it's Arsenal in second with 11. Chelsea in third with 11. Bournemouth in 4th with 11. Manchester City are way down in 12th with 7 points from their last 6 games. And Aston Villa are in 13th with 7 points. So then when you look at that and you look at how difficult it is for teams across the Premier League, generally speaking, to win games consistently this season, does it make you look back on that sort of defeat to Manchester United and the 2 draws that came before that and think, actually, do you know what? It wasn't as bad as everybody made it out to be. We keep talking about the state of the league this season. Is it actually a case of the league being tougher than it's ever been, rather than it being weaker than it's ever been? I agree that Arsenal aren't the most exciting, swashbuckling football team we've seen in Premier League history. I agree with that. But as Thierry Henry very famously said not that long ago, actually, just a few weeks ago, Mikel Arteta's task is to find a way to win. And his team are sitting top of the Premier League, 6 points clear. And also, we had that sort of major meltdown and reaction to what happened against Manchester United last weekend. And a week later, we're looking at results going our way and Arsenal getting the lead back to 6 points. It could have been 7 had things worked out differently. Hell, it could have been 10. It could have been 9, sorry. If we had won against Manchester United and these results that we saw yesterday materialized again. But the point is that it's not just about us in that, yes, okay, we want to focus on us and we can't control what other people do. But hand on heart, do you look at the other teams and think they are good enough, they are consistent enough to, over the course of the season, amass more points than us? And ultimately, that is what it's going to come down to, isn't it? Look, good morning to everybody who's joining us in the live chat. Great to see so many of you with us on this Monday morning. If you're looking for the review of the Leeds United victory, that is yesterday's episode. So go back and check that out. You can find it on the YouTube channel, on the podcast feed. And of course, if you're a patron, you can access that episode completely ad-free. Speaking of patron, we've got a patron piece that I've recorded just before we've gone live. But I couldn't hang around and be even later to the stream than I already was. So I've got to upload that, but that will happen as soon as we finish on the live stream. So within the next hour or so, you're going to have that patron piece. It is a piece looking at the difference between Kai Havertz in our midfield versus the more traditional creative midfielders that we have within our squad. So your Odegaards, your Ezes, it would obviously apply to Ethan Nwaneri as well, had he still been at the club. So go and check that out, because I talk a little bit about how Kai Havertz's inclusion changes our dynamic, how Kai Havertz's arrival, at the time that he did turn up, and how we tried to use him in that similar role then, but it didn't really work. But that was, I think, to do with our structure, to do with our shape. We weren't as good a side then in terms of our defensive solidity as we are today. So I think all of that's relevant, and we cover all of that off in the Patreon episode. Let me say a few good mornings, because there's loads and loads of you with us today. It is great to see so many of you with us. We've got James B, we've got AJ, we've got Arimi, we've got Gunnar Nicole, Afsar is with us. We've got James Nichols, X38, Sam, Steve, Colistan. We've got so many names. I'm not going to sit here and read through all of them, but thank you for being here on this Monday morning. It's great to see so many of you with us. Okay, so what we're going to cover off on today's show, we're going to cover off yesterday's football, obviously. Some really good results for us there. And as a result, as I've already mentioned, I'm going to keep saying it, Arsenal are 6 points clear at the top of the Premier League. So we're going to reflect on Manchester City's draw at Spurs. I'm not going to spend too much time on the Aston Villa game, because I didn't actually watch that one. I'm also going to talk Zinchenko and his departure. We'll congratulate the Arsenal women winning the first ever FIFA Women's Champions Cup at Emirates Stadium yesterday. We're going to react to the news that Mikel Merino is going to be out pretty much for the rest of the season. And we're going to talk about whether it's possible or whether it even makes sense to recall Ethan Nwaneri from that Marseille loan. Again, I don't know if it's possible, but we'll cover that off, because I know that's a question a lot of people are asking. And we'll talk about what Arsenal might do in the transfer window between now and it closing. I've seen some reports online. In fact, you know what? Should we start with that? Should we kind of do it in reverse order? Because based on what I've been seeing as I was scrolling just before we went live, a lot of people seem to be getting excited about the prospect and the possibility of Sandro Tonali coming to Arsenal. Sandro Tonali from Newcastle. Now, it came from, I think Florian Plettenberg said it live on Sky in Germany. And then Nicolo Schira has just posted this. Hold on, let me share this with you guys so you can see what I'm looking at here. He's just posted this, or it was about 40 minutes ago now. What am I looking for? There we go. Exclusive. Arsenal have shown interest in Sandro Tonali and are really working to sign him. Offered him a contract until 2031 with a very, very rich salary, as he puts it, to convince Tonali to join Arsenal. It's not simple. The time is short. Newcastle are asking £100 million and would not want to sell the midfielder. Okay, so I don't think this is going to happen. I think this is too big a deal and too complex a deal to do on deadline day. Okay, it's a side that we've built up a bit of a spiky rivalry with in recent times. £100 million is too much, by the way, for Sandro Tonali. He's not transformative to the level that Declan Rice is, and Declan Rice cost about £100 million, right? So first of all, the fee puts me off. The fee is ridiculous. The fee is silly. I can't see Arsenal spending that kind of money on deadline day. I never envisaged Arsenal spending that kind of money in this transfer window, full stop. The heavy lifting in terms of our signings and in terms of our spend was done in the summer. So I really do not for a second believe that this is something that is going to materialize or advance during the day. Now, do I like Sandro Tonali? Yeah, I do. Do I think he'd be a good addition to the squad? Yeah, I do. When he first arrived in England, I was a little bit unsure, having followed his career up until that point. In Italy, I was a little bit unsure whether he would cut it in the Premier League, whether he was suited to the Premier League and what the Premier League entails. He surprised me in a good way. I think he's been better than I thought he would be. And he's a really, really important part of this Newcastle United team. But this idea that on deadline day, Arsenal are going to go and spend that sort of money on him, I think is fanciful. I know that there is a tendency in the media because it drives traffic and all the rest of it to try and paint deadline day as this Hollywood movie. And more often than not, it's not that. And I actually think that deadline day can be, a little bit of an anticlimax and actually a little bit silly. Alex Crook has come out since then of TalkSport and said, unsurprisingly, Arsenal deadline day links with Sandro Tonali are wide of the mark. And as far as I'm aware, while we're live and while we're recording, there's nothing from the likes of David Ornstein or any of the other normally very reputable sources around Arsenal. What did David Ornstein say yesterday, though? Let's share this with you. He said yesterday, I keep clicking the wrong button. What am I doing? There we go. Arsenal midfielder Mikel Merino expected to miss considerable period, which was backed up and corroborated by the club and the statement that they put out a little bit later and shortly after that. Is going to be out for a considerable period with a suspected broken bone in his foot. Arsenal are surveying the market for potential loan as short-term cover for the 29-year-old Spain international. No guarantee anything materializes before the deadline. Okay, so it looks like Arsenal are looking for something a little bit more modest, something that's a little bit more affordable and a little bit more doable on transfer deadline day. Now, some of the names that have been mentioned that make a lot more sense are the likes of Ruben Neves. Now, with Ruben Neves, okay, I really liked this player 2 or 3 seasons ago. And if you'd have asked me in a window 2 or 3 seasons ago, I'd have been all over it, okay? I'd have said Ruben Neves, like him, like that he can be quite physical, that he's quite switched on defensively, but also has that touch of class, can build up from deep. Really, really like him, okay? But once you go off to Saudi Arabia, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, I question, A, what your motivations are. In the first place, but B, I question what your level is going to be like having spent a period of time there. Fitness wise, are you going to be at that level that we need you to be? And I know people say, well, he wouldn't be coming in as a starter. He'd be coming in almost as an emergency option, which does make a difference, I suppose. Okay. But I will question whether he's still at the level that would have attracted us to him in the past. And I get it, again, the role is going to be a reduced one. So maybe it doesn't matter so much, but that feels like something you could potentially do on loan. And if we did that, I'd be quite happy with that. Oxlade-Chamberlain is also being mentioned by a lot of people because, as we know, he is currently training with the Arsenal youngsters. He was without a club. He came back to Arsenal. He's been training. He's been in and around the football club. And then we actually laughed and joked about it in the press room the other day. Ahead of the game against Kairat, if we were to sustain an injury, if there was to be an emergency midfield signing required, could Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain be the guy? There's also the option of pushing Miles Lewis-Skelly into the middle of the park and trying to make that happen. I think it's a position that he could do quite well and is probably more comfortable in than when he's asked to defend like a conventional left back. So that's an option, I suppose, as well. Are we going to try and resolve this from within, or are we going to try it and go out? I mean, we're in such a strong position, and we've done brilliantly in the Premier League so far. We've done excellently in the Champions League. We've got a Carabao Cup semi-final second leg coming up tomorrow. We're still in the FA Cup, etc., etc. There's a part of me that thinks we're okay, just about, but there's also a part of me that thinks, strengthen from a position of strength and consolidate. Build on what we have. Because if I'm being honest, hand on heart, if there's one area of our team that I've actually looked at throughout the season and wondered if we have enough there, it has been the center of midfield. In terms of 10s, when we had Odegaard, Eze, and Nwaneri, I was never concerned about that. Obviously, we knew that Kai Havertz was going to return at some point and that he could play in that position. It's more about having either the deep lying players or the ones that can play as kind of hybrids. So we've got Zubimendi, we've got Norgard, and we've got Declan Rice now. That's it. I'd feel more comfortable if we had one more. And I know this is, first world problems. And you look at Arsenal's squad and how stacked it is and how deep the group is. You're probably sitting there thinking, if you're not an Arsenal fan and the off chance you're listening to this, what are you moaning about? You might even be an Arsenal fan thinking the same thing. But I really, really do believe that that's the area in our squad that we could be one or two injuries away from a real crisis. And I would like to see us try and protect against that going into the real kind of business end of the season. So let's see what's going to happen there. What else did I want to cover off in terms of this Merino stuff? As I said, we've jumped around a little bit in terms of the running order, just because of the way that the reports are coming in and then being shut down, it's fair to say, out there this morning. Yeah, so Tonali, I can't see it. Oxlade-Chamberlain, I'm not dead against it. Ruben Neves, I'd quite like it, but the terms have to be right. And yeah, let's see what happens. Alexander Zinchenko, I suppose, could have been considered a midfield option. But then again, you feel like if that was something that was on Mikel and Arsenal's minds, it would have happened already. You know, throughout his time at Arsenal Football Club, even when he wasn't getting into the team at left back, he was never really considered, was he, as a midfield option by Arteta? Is that because he's not seen as being physical enough? Is it because he's not seen as being energetic enough? I don't know. But that takes me on nicely to the Zinchenko news. He has joined Ajax after that loan deal with Nottingham Forest was terminated by mutual consent. So Alexander Zinchenko off to Ajax. Right, let's rewind now and go back to the football that took place yesterday, which was really, really significant from an Arsenal perspective. We're going to take a really short pause and then we're going to get into that next.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe.
That's right. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Really, really do appreciate all your love and support. Hit that like button if you're with us on YouTube. It doesn't cost a thing. It's really easy and it helps us a bunch. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We want to get to 48,000 sooner rather than later so we can continue on our sort of main journey towards 50 here on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please do leave us a review. Those things really, really do help. And you can follow me on the social platforms. Just type in Harry Symeou. You'll find me because the handle varies from platform to platform. I tried to make it uniform, but those handles weren't always available. Okay, let's get into what happened yesterday then, shall we? In the Premier League. Aston Villa beaten at home by Brentford. Who on earth saw that come in? I mean, as I say, I'm not going to spend too long on this game because I had it on in the background. I had some friends over yesterday. I missed a great chunk of it because I was working yesterday on Arsenal's under-21s 4-0 victory away to Leeds. You can check out the highlights on arsenal.com. And Brentford, despite going down to 10 men after Kevin Scheider's sending off, were able to get their noses in front right on the stroke of half-time via Dango Ouattara. And they were able to hold on. And credit to them, because Brentford have surprised and stunned a lot of people this season. You know, a lot of people, when they lost Thomas Frank, when they lost Norgard, when they lost Mbumo, when they lost Visser, had condemned them to relegation. We're 24 games in. They've got 36 points on the board. They aren't going anywhere. They're 7th in the division. They're only 3 points and 1 place behind the champions, Liverpool. You know, they're above Newcastle. They're above Spurs. They're above so many of the big clubs in this division. So you've got to give them a lot of praise and a lot of credit. And they've done us a massive favor yesterday. Now we're going there in the not too distant future. So we've got to be wary of that. But they've done us a favor for now. And then we move on to the game that took place at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Now, I did sit down to watch this one. I had convinced myself that there was no chance of Tottenham getting anything. I think I even said it on the pod. I said, don't get your hopes up. Don't believe in Tottenham. Don't allow yourself to fall into that trap of believing that they're going to get something out of this game. They've been dire this season. Their home form's been terrible, etc., etc. And when the game starts and you see Ryan Shirky score a goal with such ease, you know, on 11 minutes, you kind of think, yeah, this is only going one way, isn't it? And, you know, Spurs were short of options. Spurs were short of players. They didn't have too many senior players to select from, to pick from. Antoine Semenyo then, of course, scores a second for Manchester City right on the stroke of half-time, and you're thinking, game over, done and dusted. I was considering turning it over legitimately, but because we had friends around and we were in conversation and chatting and catching up and whatever, we just left it on in the background. And then Dominic Solanke pulls one back. And I've always said to friends of mine that are Spurs fans, judge Thomas Frank when he's got forwards available, because he hasn't had forwards available for large parts of this season. And the ones that the club brought in for him are just, in my opinion, in a lot of cases, not good enough. But Solanke pulls one back under, you have to say, controversial circumstances. Okay? I saw the replay straight away and I said, foul. That cannot be a goal. Dominic Solanke has kicked through Mark Gahey and essentially forced him to put the ball into his own net. Okay, it's a foul, and if that were given against us, I'd be absolutely furious. So rather than pretending that it's okay, and being a hypocrite, because I often call out refereeing standards, I've got to say my bit here. That goal should never stand in a million years, and Manchester City were robbed. Now, Manchester City, okay, are a club that are under investigation for 115 financial breaches. They're still competing. They're still spending money. And again, I'm not even saying that they're guilty. But when it comes to controversy, I think if I was in the mix of that, I'd probably not go so big on little things. Well, I say little things. It got Spurs back into the game on things like this. But where Pep Guardiola's got to look at his own team and where they've got to be hugely disappointed is the way that they performed, in that second half in its entirety. They were nowhere near good enough. They were nowhere near the level required. They were poor. And actually, Spurs should have gone on and won it. Spurs should have gone on and won it. And this is a Spurs side that have been criticised all season. Toothless, not creating opportunities, not free-flowing enough, not dominant enough, etc., etc. They even lost Romero at half-time. They had to take Romero off. And yet Tottenham found a way to get back into this game. Dominic Solanke's second goal is brilliant. It is brilliant. And that's what having a centre forward, can do for you. And Tottenham have been without a good one all season long. So, that's why I keep saying, yeah, Thomas Frank's not doing an amazing job at the moment. And I can understand why there is conversations ongoing around his job and why Tottenham fans are a little bit unsure as to whether this was the right appointment. I get all of that. I completely get it. But I think you got to judge him, when he's got the right tools at his disposal. He had something in a centre forward up front yesterday. And look, he's got him 2 goals and he's earned him a draw. And the way that the draw comes, you're 2-0 down, you come back from that, I beg your pardon, and you end up drawing the game. You probably should have won it. But the fact that you've come from 2-0 down, it makes it a feel-good draw. And I think that will help Tottenham moving forward, which again is not ideal because we're playing them in the not too distant future. But you get my point. Okay, they've done us a favor yesterday. And so all of that meltdown and all of that, oh my God, we're wobbling, that we had to deal with, after last weekend, all of that just evaporates and disappears now because neither Manchester City nor Aston Villa were able to do the job. And again, I refer you back to the Premier League's form guide. Okay. Manchester United are top of it with 12 points from their last 6. That's an average of 2 points a game. Arsenal are second with less than an average of 2 points per game across that period. Nobody in this league is winning football matches consistently because it's very, very difficult to do that. And so maybe that is a bit of context that will help us when we sort of are tempted to overreact to certain things as we have been in recent weeks. Okay, Arsenal's women, congratulations to them. They won the first ever FIFA Women's Champions Cup. They won 3-2 against Corinthians after extra time. An entertaining and thrilling game with the right outcome in the end, as far as the club are concerned. So congratulations to them. Look, I didn't watch the game in its entirety. I've seen the highlights, but I was watching the Premier League games yesterday. And by the time the Manchester City game finished and, the sort of, I saw the interviews and all the reaction, I only caught the back end of Arsenal's FIFA Women's Champions Cup victory. So there are much better placed people than me to comment on that game and to analyze it. The likes of Tim Stillman on the Arscast stuff and various other Arsenal women's content creators. So go over and check that out if you're looking for analysis on that, because from me, you're going to get very, very basic level. But yeah, I guess I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. I've covered the fact that we're 6 points clear and everybody can calm down now. I've covered the fact that Arsenal have been linked this morning with Sandro Tonali from Newcastle and how unlikely I think that is to develop into something more or to materialise. I mean, what if Sandro Tonali kicks up a massive stink? Let's see. I've touched on the Arsenal women's victory. Mikel Merino's foot injury is a bad one. It requires surgery. And the aim is for him to return to training by the end of the season. I don't think I covered off enough of why losing Mikel Merino is a big blow. So let's wrap up on that. Obviously, he's an option, a body, right? But he's more than that in this group. He's one of the leaders. There's no question about that. He's experienced. He's intelligent. He's multifunctional. And that means that, whoever, if anybody, Arsenal are able to sort of go out and bring someone in. If Arsenal are able to go and bring someone in, whoever that is, they're going to have big shoes to fill in terms of Mikel Merino's role within the group and within the squad. He's obviously a very popular figure. He's a constant goal threat. But I just think that the superpower that Mikel Merino possesses is his adaptability and intelligence. Do I always think he's the quickest across the ground? No. Do I think at times when he plays in midfield, he looks a bit clunky? Yeah, I do. But I think over time, I've come to love Mikel Merino and understand what it is exactly that he brings to the group and why he's such a popular figure and why the manager trusts him the way he does. So this is undoubtedly a big blow. And it's frustrating because every time you get a couple of players back, like we had Calafiori back, we had Havertz back the other day in a Premier League squad, and then we lose Bukayo Saka in the warm-up, and then we lose Mikel Merino for this long period of time. I mean, it's just as well. We've got this massive squad, isn't it? Because I think us having everybody fit lasted a matter of days, and it just feels like that's the way it's going to be with Arsenal. For whatever reason, I don't know why that is the case. Football has changed a lot in recent years. Injuries feel more and more common. But yeah, we've got the squad to cover it. I just wonder if Arsenal will feel that given the position of strength we currently find ourselves in, it's worth just going out and getting something done on this deadline day, if it's possible, of course, to accommodate for that loss. Let's see. Let's find out. Okay, I'm going to love you and leave you all, guys, this morning, because I think we might be back with another pod later on. If Arsenal do dip into the market, in which case I'm not going to sit and blab on about what we could do or what we might do before it's happened. Let's save that chat for later on in the day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. As always, like, subscribe, all the rest of it. Leave a comment. Check us out on Patreon as well. The Patreon piece will be with you very, very shortly. It's on Kai Havertz and what he brings in terms of that advanced midfield role. What does the dynamic look like versus what it looks like when you've got an Odegaard, an Eze, or an Ethan Nwaneri in the side? I'll catch you all on the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a wonderful deadline day. Are we going to get any surprises? Who knows? Catch you all soon. Goodbye.
Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Come on, you Gunners.